Exclusive contracted novel by Feilu Novel Network. My backyard connects to the Three Kingdoms, and I start with a glass to buy a censor. Returning to his hometown, Lu Qing accidentally discovered that the dry well in his backyard could allow him to travel back to the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. After obtaining this discovery, Lu Qing was extremely excited because he could travel between two realms, and the benefits he could gain were unimaginable. At the beginning, in order to gain a foundation, Lu Qing went to Luoyang and bought the Governor of Youzhou with a few glass beads. Establishing one's own power in the Three Kingdoms with modern resources, bringing new vitality to this era. At the same time, he also exchanged countless amounts of money for himself in modern times with high-quality resources from the Three Kingdoms period. When looking back years later, Lu Qing from the Three Kingdoms period stood at the top of the imperial city, while modern Lu Qing became the world's richest man. Feilu Novel Network reminds you that this novel and its characters are purely fictional. If there are any similarities, they are purely coincidental and should not be imitated. 001, A few glass beads, bought the Governor of Youzhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 001 Luoyang Shiyuan is a notorious place in the world because the famous selling of officials and titles began here. Sir, I want to buy an official. A young man approached the eunuch at the entrance of the western garden, bowed and said. Upon hearing the young man's words, the eunuch was immediately overjoyed. The young man in front of him was dressed well and looked polite. Being called an adult by such a person made the eunuch feel secretly pleased. What kind of official do you want to buy? I'll give you a good introduction. Sure enough, the young eunuch's attitude became much more enthusiastic. Upon hearing this, Lu Qing smiled slightly and then quietly took out something from his arms. Sir, you can go report to Changshan and tell him that I have a precious treasure to offer. Seeing what was exposed in Lu Qing's arms, the little eunuch's pupils contracted and her breathing became faster. You come with me. He quickly led Lu Qing into the western garden, and after more than 10 minutes, Lu Qing successfully met Zhang Rang, one of the largest eunuchs in the late Eastern Han Dynasty. Are you going to offer a precious treasure? Zhang Rang didn't even lift his eyes, obviously not considering Lu Qing. However, this is also normal. After all, in the current era, Zhang Rang can be said to be the most powerful group of people in the entire Eastern Han Dynasty. It was not until the death of Emperor Ling of Han that he fell to the top of the clouds. I would like to inform Minister Zhang that I have come from overseas and have found precious glass treasures in the overseas Fairy Mountains. Now returning to the Central Plains, I want to exchange this treasure for a new career. During the conversation, Lu Qing took out the small box in his arms and gently opened it. After seeing what was inside, Zhang Rang suddenly stood up, his eyes full of disbelief. I saw several sparkling glass beads inside this box, with even starlight dots, as if the entire Milky Way had been placed inside. Actually, only Lu Qing knows that this is just an ordinary glass bead, but it looks slightly better than the kind he used to play marbles when he was a child. This treasure is called the Starry Glass Pearl, and I can assert that the same thing will never be found again in the whole world. These 3 glass beads are dedicated to your majesty. Please present them to your majesty. Lu Qing said this, and Zhang was taken aback. There are 5 in this box, why did Lu Qing say 3? Suddenly, Zhang made the fairy understand and looked at Lu Qing with a smile on his face. Ha, not bad. You're quite clever, kid. You can rest assured about this matter. I, Zhang Rang, can be considered a person who speaks his mind. Please leave an address later, and your official position will soon come down. After bidding farewell to Zhang Rang, Lu Qing returned to the inn where he temporarily lived, and then quietly waited for news. I believe Zhang Rang will not disappoint him. At the window of the inn, looking down at Luoyang Street, Lu Qing sighed in his heart. He is a modern person, because when he returned to his hometown to repair his old house, he accidentally fell into a dry well in the backyard, and unexpectedly arrived at the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. It is now the 6th year of Guanghe, and next year it will be the Yellow Turban Rebellion. Therefore, Lu Qing has put in a lot of effort to come to Luoyang, hoping to obtain an official position and the fundamental basis for settling down in this world. Just one day has passed, and good news has arrived. Lu Hong was very happy to receive the glass bead. After all, according to the wisdom of ancient people, this glass bead is simply a creation that takes away the heavens. And with the benefits of Lu Qing, Zhang Rang also put in a lot of effort, ultimately bringing two choices directly to Lu Qing. Lord Lu, I have said a lot of good things for you, and your Majesty's intention is to give you two choices. Firstly, go to Youzhou to serve as the governor. However, I don't mind if you choose this option. Although you may become a high-ranking official in the frontier, Youzhou has many powerful officials and is also coveted by foreign tribes. The second option is to freely choose a county in the Han Dynasty and become its governor, even if you choose the prosperous Nanyang County or Runan County directly. Lu Qing's face lit up with joy. He had thought that changing to a county magistrate or a small county magistrate would be enough, but he didn't expect such a big reward. However, he also became more aware that the Han Dynasty was coming to an end, as the governor of a province in charge of millions of people could easily sell them, indicating that the Han Dynasty had exhausted its power. Your Excellency, I have chosen the governor of Youzhou. Without a doubt, Lu Qing made a choice because he was not a fool. Rich counties have their own aristocratic families, and he himself, as a person without a foundation, must not be killed. Although with modern support, Lu Qing is not afraid at all, finding a place far away from the hinterland of the Central Plains is actually better for Lu Qing's development. Listening to Lu Qing's choice, Zhang Rang nodded slightly. No matter what choice he made, it had nothing to do with him. What he didn't actually tell Lu Qing was that even if he became the governor of Youzhou, Lu Qing wouldn't be able to do it for a few years. After all, although the Han Dynasty was mediocre, it was not really stupid. County magistrate and other official positions are fine, but even if the position of county magistrate or above is sold out, it will take at most a few years for a replacement. So if Lu Qing is smart, he can make more money during his tenure in the past few years, and then he can switch to a good place. 002, Gaining military morale with gold and silver, Han Xin pulls military tactics. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 002 After leaving Shiyuan, an appointment letter appeared in Lu Qing's arms, and from then on he became the governor of Youzhou. However, as the governor of Youzhou, I am the commander of the light staff. Although Youzhou is a harsh and cold place, due to its proximity to other ethnic groups, its people are strong and imposing. The forces that can establish themselves there all have a brush, not to mention Gong Xuanzan alone. If you go there yourself, you may not be able to gain his support. However, Lu Qing was already prepared for this and turned around to go to the general's mansion. Finally, through some operations and modern handicrafts, Lu Qing successfully obtained 3,000 soldiers and horses from General He Jin. In fact, the Sodat called 3,000 elite soldiers are just 3,000 newly recruited soldiers, but Lu Qing doesn't mind because with these 3,000 soldiers and horses to protect him, he can easily reach Youzhou. As long as you get to Youzhou, the rest of the story will be simple. At the camp outside the city, Lu Qing saw his 3,000 soldiers and looked at the yellowed and skinny soldiers. Lu Qing sighed in his heart. It seems that it will take some time to turn it into a strong soldier, but in the future, this will be his foundation. Now, Lu Qing steps onto the command platform and looks at the 3,000 soldiers below. It has to be said that this feeling is addictive, which he cannot feel in modern times. After all, he is just an ordinary person in modern times. What qualifications does he have to stand above these 10,000 people? All soldiers, I am the newly appointed governor of Youzhou, and your words are my personal guards. I will accompany you to Youzhou for your appointment. Listening to Lu Qing's words, the soldiers were discussing one after another. Although they had known before, it was inevitable that they were still a bit worried at this moment. After all, they are all new recruits from around here, and their families are all around Luoyang. Now that they are far away from their hometown and heading to the bitter and cold Youzhou, it is inevitable that they have some worries in their hearts. However, Lu Qing clearly realized this early on and immediately waved his hand. Several strong men walked up carrying boxes of things. After Lu Qinggang arrived at this era, he did a lot of preparation work, such as exchanging modern handicrafts for a lot of gold and silver. This is the gap of the times. He can easily find a 3D printing factory to print various sculptures of dragons and phoenixes, which are unimaginable masterpieces in this era. Making some silver money is simply simple. Open all. Lu Qing shouted loudly and then opened all the boxes, shining with golden light for a moment. The soldiers in the room were all stunned. Because in that box, surprisingly, all of it was golden. At the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty, the annual income of the people was around 8,000 yuan. Converted to silver, it looks like 8 taels. That is to say, the annual income of many people is only 8 taels of silver. And in terms of this gold, 1 or 2 is equivalent to 10 taels of silver. The gold in front of me was specially beaten by someone with mercy, and each golden cake costs about 10 taels. That is to say, this golden cake is equivalent to 100 taels of silver and 100,000 yuan. It's equivalent to being an ordinary person with an income of over 10 years. All soldiers, I will not mistreat anyone who is loyal to me. Now, I will let go of my promise here. Are you willing to go to Youzhou and choose for yourself? As long as you are willing to go, you can take 10 taels of gold cakes from here, which can be considered as your household allowance, and leave it for your family members to build a house or provide food and clothing subsidies. In the future, if you follow me, even if it's a big soldier, you can receive a monthly salary of 2 taels of silver. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole audience instantly caused a sensation, and everyone looked at Lu Qing with disbelief. Big, sir, are these all true? The last soldier couldn't hold back and asked in a trembling voice. Lu Qing looked at the soldier and then asked in a deep voice. Are you willing or not? The soldier thought for a moment and finally gritted his teeth and nodded. At that moment, Lu Qing laughed heartily and threw out a piece of golden cake. The soldier quickly took it down. Hush. Really, it's actually true. The soldiers are going crazy now. Why are they joining the army? Isn't it because I can't survive anymore? Now that you can earn so much money, even if you die in battle outside, your parents, elders, wives, and children have a chance to survive. At present, many soldiers became excited and all expressed loyalty to Lu Qing. The people of this era are ignorant, but at the same time, they are also easy to control. They can be fed and clothed, and being kind to them can make these people go through life and death for themselves. Lu Qing really doesn't care about some gold and silver. If he becomes strong in the future, many overseas gold and silver mountains can be dug and mined freely, so Lu Qing never cares about money. The last 3,000 soldiers all looked at Lu Qing with fanaticism on their faces. Their words added 10 taels of golden cakes in their arms, enough to provide their families with abundant food and clothing for 10 years. This settlement fee is really too much. Not to mention now, even if it is thousands of years from now, no ruler would provide such a large settlement fee. By the way, you will have 3 days to return to your hometown. If you can bring in 10 people within 3 days, then I will appoint him as a what chief. If you bring in 100 people, I will appoint him as a 100-person general. In my own army, the official position determines the treatment. Ordinary soldiers receive a monthly allowance of 2 liang, while if it's a long one, it's a monthly allowance of 4 liang. As soon as these words were spoken, the soldiers immediately became excited. 003, starting with 30,000 soldiers, set off for Youzhou. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 003 3 days passed in a blink of an eye. 3 days later, on the school field, Lu Qing saw the crowd in front of him, his eyes shining brightly. how many people cannot survive in this era? Lu Qing exclaimed, because in just 3 days, the 3,000 soldiers who returned home actually brought him a whole 30,000 people. Seeing the 30,000 people in front of him, Lu Qing was very excited in his heart, because this would be his foundation. Lu Qing can freely travel between modern and ancient times without worrying about not being able to afford them. After appointing lower-ranking generals, Lu Qing officially announced the deployment of the entire army. Although all these soldiers were wearing cloth clothes and didn't even have simple armor, Lu Qing didn't lose heart because he was already preparing for everything. Lu Qing boarded his luxurious carriage directly and then, escorted by a crowd of 30,000, headed towards Youzhou. What he has done these days is actually seen by many people, and his financial resources have also aroused the envy of many people. But in Luoyang's words, no one has yet taken action. After Youzhou arrives, it is estimated that many ghosts, snakes, and gods will come knocking on their doors, or perhaps Lu Qing, the governor of Youzhou, may not be able to last long. As for riding the carriage, Lu Qing has no burden. He is already a modern person and not a brave warrior. What he needs to do is to manage the power and generals under his command, rather than doing it himself, so he should ride the carriage to enjoy the reception. Even the soldiers who were escorting around were proud for a year. After all, they were escorting the high-ranking officials of their parents. That night, in an open area, 30,000 soldiers set up camp and then began burying pots to make rice. As for Lu Qing's words, he ordered people to keep an eye on the camp, and in the end, his mind moved back to modern times. Who knows how much he prepared for today, taking off his ancient costume and revealing several extremely terrifying things inside. Hand grenades, firearms, and bulletproof vests. Lu Qing is not a foolish person who disregards everything. After crossing the dry well for the first time, he found that he had a tattoo on his arm. In the future, he can also travel back to the Three Kingdoms period without passing through the dry well. The function of the dry well is still there, but it has become a place for material transfer. For example, without the need for a dry well, anything that Lu Qing could pick up could be brought directly to the Three Kingdoms period. But if using a dry well, he just needs to throw everything into the well, and then when he is in the Three Kingdoms, his mind can move and he can directly summon the things inside the well. It can be said that this golden finger is extremely outrageous. The firearms and the like in his hand were obtained by him when he went abroad a few days ago. After all, when we first entered the Three Kingdoms period, there was chaos and chaos everywhere, and ghosts knew where bandits would jump out. With a pistol and a few grenades, at least in critical moments, one can save their lives. It's really impossible to think back to modern times. He had a bulletproof vest on his body, which was a high-end item he had spent a lot of money on. The ancient knives couldn't even leave a trace. This time I'm coming back for food. Since I have an army, of course I should treat them better. Hello, Mr. Lu. Have my goods arrived yet? Lu Qing made a phone call and obtained some old medicinal herbs from the Three Kingdoms period, as well as jewelry and so on, which he exchanged for a lot of money in modern times. Later, Lu Qing opened a trading company and disguised himself as specializing in minerals, grains, and so on. Anyway, he bought and sold everything from various sources. Mainly used as a cover for bringing things during the Three Kingdoms period, and even transformed their own backyard into a huge warehouse. There are indeed many things shipped out every day, mainly wood, minerals, and so on from the Three Kingdoms period. An hour later, several large trucks arrived at the back mountain of Lu Qing's house, and bags of rice and grain were carried down. These rice and grains do not have labels or manufacturers because Lu Qing said he wants to sell them abroad under a different label brand. The manufacturer certainly doesn't doubt it. After all, it's normal to sell a brand as their own product. When everyone left, Lu Qing drove a forklift and threw all the food, vegetables, fruits, and various meats into the dry well. It took several hours to finish it, and after finishing it, Lu Qing breathed a sigh of relief. Then, with a sudden thought, he returned to the Three Kingdoms period. See you, sir. When soldiers from the Three Kingdoms period saw Lu Qing, they respectfully bowed. They were cooking at the moment, but what they were eating was a small amount of coarse grain given by the court when they set off. Obviously, the Feilu.At food needs to be solved by themselves, but the soldiers didn't say anything because they can eat these things and they are all good. Moreover, adults are wealthy, so they can buy some food for them on the road in the future. All come over. Lu Qing said in a deep voice, knowing that he wanted to create an image. Although he had a modern background and was not afraid of anything, it was best to make the soldiers truly respect and support him. 004, Showcasing Miracles in Public, targeting Zhao Zi from Changshan. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 004 So Lu Qing asked someone to appear in front of him, and after all the soldiers gathered, Lu Qing immediately waved his hand. Buzz, buzz. A shocking scene occurred, and in the distance, bags of rice, various vegetables and fruits, chickens, ducks, fish, and meat, all of which fell from the air, were seen in the open space. The whole scene was silent, with all the soldiers staring blankly at everything in front of them. Their gaze at Lu Qing was like a fairy. Looking at the shocked soldiers, Lu Qing said in a deep voice. You have also seen that this is the ability bestowed upon me by heaven. When I come to this world, I bring you abundant food and clothing. The soldiers were first shocked, then fanatical, all kneeling on the ground. We are willing to die for adults. Looking at the excited and enthusiastic soldiers, Lu Qing smiled, which was the effect he wanted. What he needed were absolutely loyal soldiers. The Taiping Dao, which is in charge of teaching, can deceive so many people, but this is a true miracle for oneself. It is unreasonable for the people of this era not to be impressed by oneself. Of course, the confidence still comes from modernity. After all, whether it is the modern firepower on his body or the ability to travel back to modernity at any time, it is Lu Qing's confidence. If something really goes wrong, he can leave at any time and then start again. So when doing things, Lu Qing can dissipate a bit, and even be more free to do whatever he wants. After all, he is really not afraid of failure. After gaining higher loyalty from the soldiers, Lu Qing was clearly in a good mood and immediately began to invite the soldiers to cook. Hiss, what white rice! I'm afraid even high-ranking officials can't eat it, right? Is this beef? If you eat beef, you have to kill the head. Hiss, what fruit is this? Why is it so sweet? The soldiers were extremely excited because they didn't know how to make it, so in the end, under the guidance of Lu Qing, they directly made a variety of mixed meat noodles. It's all about adding various meats, then adding potatoes, lotus root slices, and various vegetables, and finally having a big pot of vermicelli. This is a delicious modern dish that directly conquers all the soldiers. They even cried while eating. Woo-woo, it would be great if my girl could eat it. It's so delicious. I've never eaten anything so delicious in my life. Looking at the soldiers crying with joy, Lu Qing knew it was time for him to play. He saw Lu Qing holding a bowl and standing on the high platform, watching the soldiers speak in a low voice. Soldiers, do you want to eat these every day in the future? Listening to Lu Qing's words, the soldiers shouted excitedly at the moment. Think. Lu Qing nodded in satisfaction and then drank loudly. Do you think your family can also eat these? 3 meals a day, with meat every day, no longer yellow and thin, no longer enduring hunger. Listening to Lu Qing's words, the soldiers looked dazed and couldn't help but imagine a heavenly beauty in their minds. Think. Then they shouted without hesitation. Lu Qing nodded and then spoke loudly. So, why don't you serve me? Let's die. I can promise you that as long as you follow me for a day, you can eat these things every day. Even if you died in battle for me, today I swear to heaven that if you die in battle for me, everything you enjoy will also be enjoyed by your family. Listening to Lu Qing's words, the soldiers were excited and their blood boiled, all kneeling on the ground. May I die to serve my lord. Feeling the fanatical emotions of the soldiers, Lu Qing's face showed a smile. With 30,000 fanatical soldiers, who could stop me in this remote land of Youzhou? In the following days, Lu Qing slowed down his pace of progress. Set aside an hour every day for training, and with sufficient meat and various fruits and vegetables, the soldiers' yellow complexion and thin muscles were relieved. Although people in this era may not have enough to eat, their physical fitness is undeniable. After sufficient nutrition supplementation, their potential to burst out is simply terrifying. In just half a month, the original mob has also become robust. Lu Qing directly copied the modern soldier training method, only making changes in some places. At most, it will take another month, and an elite and powerful general that surpasses the current era will emerge. At that time, Lu Qing will arrive in Youzhou and embark on his grand ambition. It is absolutely impossible for Lu Qing to say that there is no ambition to grow without the support of a whole modern society. So he also wanted to give it a try, the feeling of being high and dominating the world. Your Excellency, the area ahead is Changshan County. Should we go and rest for a while? The trajectory of Lu Qing's progress was calculated in advance, with the goal of obtaining some famous officials and generals of this era. But many goals can be easily abandoned, such as Sun Yu and others, who have no family background and are not even as humble as their own. They definitely don't look up to them. So Lu Qing's gaze was on Zhao Yun, Huang Zhong, Dian Wei, Su Chu, and so on. Now arriving in Changshan County, my goal is to be loyal and courageous Zhao Zilong. Although the training methods from modern armies have laid a foundation that even feudal lords of this era envy for their 30,000 soldiers. However, without the command and training of current-era generals, when on the battlefield, one can only collide randomly. Therefore, Lu Qing needs a commanding general, and Zhao Yun is undoubtedly the best choice. 005 successfully recruited Zhao Yun and started training cavalry. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 005 Send the order, the army will be stationed outside the city, without disturbing the people or making noise. Lu Qing ordered that he came from modern times, and his education also told him that the military and civilians are one family. So his army is completely following the best military standards in his mind. He doesn't take every stitch from the people, and even wherever he goes, if there is a disaster or when the people need it, he will ask the soldiers to help. Even the idea of military-civilian unity is promoted daily in the military. Lu Qing didn't know that his subconscious behavior had indeed brought him a good public opinion, at least in the eyes of the people and many underprivileged children. After the army was stationed, Lu Qing entered Changshan County with hundreds of guards. Changshan County Magistrate, see Governor. The news of Lu Qing taking office has already been known by many along the way. After all, he took office with a 30,000-strong army, and this scene quickly spread throughout the Han Dynasty. Although Lu Qing was a paid official, he couldn't resist the fact that he had real power and military power at this time, so the officials along the way were very polite. Moreover, Lu Qing never asked for money and food from the local government, which naturally gained the favor of many local officials. Wang County Magistrate, I am only stationed in Changshan County for one night. However, I would like to find someone and would like to request Wang County Magistrate's help. Lu Qing said so. Later, with the help of Wang County Magistrate, Lu Qing found Zhao Yun's family. In front of a thatched cottage, Lu Qing appeared here with hundreds of guards. Dare you ask, sir? A man walked out and looked at Lu Qing nervously, asking. Lu Qing arched his hand forward at the moment. I am Lu Qing, with the courtesy name Yunho. I came today to hear that Zhao Yun, a disciple of the gun god Tongyuan, has returned to the village because I am going to Youzhou for my appointment. So this sudden general is like a crossbow, coming here now only to invite Zhao Yun out of the mountain, help me pacify Youzhou, and drive out foreign tribes. Lu Qing got straight to the main topic, anyway he doesn't have much background. Listening to Lu Qing's words, Zhao Yun's brother Zhao Feng was stunned. Surprisingly, the Grand Governor personally came to invite his brother out of the mountain. Although I know the fame of the gun god Tong Yuan is great, I haven't reached this level yet, have I? After all, the gun god is the gun god, and Zhao Yun is Zhao Yun. At this time, Zhao Yun was just a small person. At this moment, a handsome young man strode forward and looked wary when he saw Lu Qing and others. Thanks to Lu Qing's personal guards, after more than half a month of modern training and sufficient meat supplementation, they now have the taste of elite soldiers and fierce generals. Excuse me, sir. Lu Qing looked at Zhao Yun in front of him and couldn't help but sigh in his heart. He was truly Zhao Zilong, a silver spear with a white horse. His appearance was really impressive. I am Lord Qingyun of Xiaolu, the newly appointed governor of Youzhou. I came today to invite Zilong to come out of the mountain to help me pacify the foreign race. If Zilong is willing, all of my 30,000 soldiers and horses can belong to Zilong's command. Lu Qing said this, and as soon as he spoke, the whole room fell silent, even Zhao Yun was shocked. That's 30,000 soldiers and horses. It should be noted that many states and counties may not necessarily have so many troops, and many generals in the court do not have the opportunity to manage so many troops. But today Lu Qing actually promised that as long as Zhao Yun is willing to join, he can directly become the commander of a 30,000-strong army. Looking at Lu Qing in front of him, Zhao Yun's heart was beating wildly. Lu Qing had always believed that interests moved people's hearts, and even Zhao Yun could not escape. He may not care about money, but he already has the idea of fighting on the battlefield. How could he refuse the temptation of commanding 1,000 armies? Finally, Zhao Yun knelt directly on the ground and respectfully shouted. Zhao Yun and Zhao Zilong, see Lord. Lu Qing laughed heartily at the moment. I don't have personal charm or a glorious family background, but I can give everyone what they want. In this way, Lu Qing recruited Zhao Yun and obtained his first fierce general during the Three Kingdoms period. Zhao Yun followed Lu Qing like this, even taking away his brother and sister. After all, there were only these two relatives at home, so they naturally went to Youzhou together. After having Zhao Yun, it was indeed different. In addition to daily physical fitness and discipline training, Zhao Yun also began to teach soldiers military formations, as well as equestrian skills and so on. The word for warhorses is simple. Whenever Lu Qing goes to a place, he will send someone to buy warhorses. Although there are not many places, it takes a lot of money to buy more than 10 horses, which look like dozens of horses. But it's hard to resist the constant acquisition, so it's expected that after arriving in Youzhou, all of my 30,000 troops will become cavalry. After obtaining Zhao Yun, Lu Qing's next goals were Jianwei and Su Chu, but he only passed through their location. Strictly speaking, Lu Qing did not care whether he could obtain their loyalty. Because once you arrive in Youzhou and make great achievements, there will naturally be capable officials and generals coming to seek refuge. 006 finally arrived in Youzhou and began to reorganize the army. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 006 After leaving Changshan County, they headed towards Youzhou all the way, but it seemed that their luck had run out. Later, Lu Qing did not find Jianwei, Su Chu, and others. After all, he cannot stay in one place for too long. If he doesn't find anyone for a day, he can only leave. 2 months later, Lu Qing and others finally arrived within the territory of Youzhou. The reason why it took so long is naturally because transportation was inconvenient in ancient times, and many people even had to spend more than half a year traveling from south to north. And they are advancing with a large army, which naturally slows down a lot. When Lu Qing arrived in Youzhou, all the forces in Youzhou turned their attention. And the 30,000 soldiers and horses brought by Lu Qing did indeed deter many people, just because Lu Qing's 30,000 soldiers and horses were all cavalry. Who knows how much it cost to gather so many horses? Anyway, modern handicrafts, such as artificial diamonds, require a lot of effort. However, the result was gratifying. With 30,000 cavalry, Lu Qing finally gained the foundation to establish himself in Youzhou. Outside of Jixian, Lu Qing led a large army to come here. The capital of Youzhou is located in Ji County, so it is said that the county magistrate of Ji County is the most difficult, while other county magistrates are at least local emperors when they have nothing to do. But in Ji County, there is also a governor's office inside, which can be said to be completely empty county magistrate, usually doing some trivial things. Officer, see the governor. The magistrate of Jixian bowed and bowed, with a hint of bitterness in his eyes. He thought he was a purchased governor and should be easily fooled. Unexpectedly, he took office directly with a 30,000-strong army. Where on earth did he come from as a gilded tycoon? Even if it's the Yuan family of the 4 generations and 3 nobles, it would be great if their children could have 1,000 or 800 guards when they take office, right? Lu Qing nodded and casually said a few words to the county magistrate, then stationed the army outside the city, and then took the remaining personal guards to the governor's mansion. Not long after the former governor left, the decorations in this governor's mansion are still very new, and Lu Qing didn't pay much attention and just kept them unchanged. Looking at the vast governor's office in front of me, even in the remote Youzhou, it still has the face of a local governor, so it looks very good. In theory, in order for the trusted governor to be in place, it is necessary to summon subordinate officials to report their duties. However, now that he has arrived in Youzhou, none of these county governors or county magistrates have come, clearly hoping to give him a boost. Lu Qing doesn't care. It's okay if they give him some time to develop, he will become the true king of this Youzhou. Zilong, our army will undergo reorganization and dress changes next. I'll leave these things to you. My task is to complete them within a month to equip them with a certain level of combat effectiveness, and then start with suppressing bandits. Lu Qing said to Zhao Yun like this. Zhao Yun's expression was serious, and his eyes were full of excitement, because after arriving in Youzhou, it was finally time for him to show off his skills. After giving orders to Zhao Yun, Lu Qing found an opportunity to return to the modern world. The purpose of this return was not only to cash in the things he had obtained from the Three Kingdoms world, but also to purchase weapons and armor for the army. After all, this is a weapon armor for 30,000 people, not a small amount. With modern craftsmanship, at a low price, it can be exchanged for divine weapons that were not available in ancient times. When Lu Qing first gained the ability to travel through the Three Kingdoms, he went through a period of bad luck, so he accumulated a lot of money, such as trading companies, which have been in operation for half a year. After accumulating a certain amount of experience, he decided to buy an official position and then obtained his status during the Three Kingdoms period. Mr. Lu, what do you need this time? In the town steel factory, Lu Qing met the director of the factory. When he had just obtained the war horse, he asked him to order some saddles, stirrups, horseshoes, etc. These things that were not present in the Han Dynasty surprised Zhao Yun and gave himself, as a novice cavalry, the capital to fight against the old cavalry. Although these are small things, they can't hold up a large quantity. So last time the factory director made a lot of money, so when he saw Lu Qing, it was like seeing the god of wealth. This time, the scale is a bit large, it's a simulation of 10,000 horse swords and 10,000 horse spears. Lu Qing started reading the list, but things like bows and arrows were not enough because bows and arrows have long-range killing power, which is considered a controlled product in modern times. So Lu Qing chose to purchase some materials and production tools, and when he returned to the Three Kingdoms period, he hired workers to make them. And this time is probably the only time. Nowadays, a force of 30,000 is already considered huge. In the future, when we have a force of 100,000, or even hundreds of thousands, we cannot continue to purchase from modern times, can we? That will be discovered sooner or later, so the subsequent goal should be to purchase some modern and ancient production equipment, and then produce it ourselves during the Three Kingdoms period. After leaving the steel factory, Lu Qing went to the clothing factory again, preparing to customize military uniforms, armor, and so on. These days, as long as you have money, there is nothing that these factories cannot produce. 007, a fully equipped military, beginning to develop civilian. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 007 At the dry well in the backyard of his hometown, Lu Qing threw all the purchased materials into it. After arriving there, all you need to do is think and use it, which can be considered as an alternative storage space. Returning to Youzhou, Lu Qing immediately approached Zhao Yun and led him into a warehouse. Zilong, these are the weapons and armor I have prepared for the army, but only the bows and arrows are missing. You need to find a craftsman in the city to make them. And here, there is a design blueprint for a composite bow that you can take over. I believe craftsmen can make it. Lu Qing said so, and then pushed open the warehouse door. When he saw what was inside the warehouse, Zhao Yun was directly shocked. This. How could this be possible? You should know that this is the governor's office. As the only general under Lu Qingque, I can say that I live in the governor's mansion every day. If such a huge amount of supplies were to be transported in, how could I not know? Many soldiers in the army said that the Lord was a deity descending to the mortal world. Previously, Zhao Yun only believed that it was because the Lord was too kind to the soldiers that they said so. But now it seems that there are things I don't know. However, Zhao Yun is not the kind of person who delves into the details, so he immediately took orders and then led his soldiers to start transporting supplies. What excellent weapons! Even the weapons given by my master are far inferior. Zhao Yun picked up a spear and his eyes were filled with surprise. Such exquisite weapons, even if they are from a wealthy family, can be passed down as treasures, but there are actually tens of thousands of them in front of him. This is the gap of the times. Although the wisdom of the ancients cannot be underestimated, due to low productivity, the true top-level divine weapons and weapons may only be able to be crafted by a foundry in a lifetime. Therefore, these weapons and halberds from modern factories have excellent standards and can be mass-produced. It can be said that with these weapons, Lu Qing's army has taken a significant lead in this era. At the same time, there were also armor and so on, and Lu Qing directly used full wrapping. Because modern times have various lightweight metals and their defense is no longer inferior to ordinary steel, Lu Qing chose that material to make armor. In this case, not only does it have strong defense, but it is also very lightweight, so not only are the soldiers fully covered, even their horses can be fully covered. After 30,000 soldiers changed their uniforms, it was a majestic sight. All black, with a ghost-faced armor on the helmet, Tang Hengdao on the waist, and the spear in hand, this looks like the top elite at first glance. And at this time, the military training has not been completed yet. If they wait for Zhao Yun to train them for a period of time, then who is Lu Qing's opponent in this world? Not bad, not bad. I'll leave the training of Zilong's army to you. 1 month later, we'll start the Youzhou bandit suppression. I have only one goal, which is to stay up all night and leave nothing to be found. Listening to Lu Qing's words, Zhao Yun's whole body trembled. Such a lofty ideal is not something that ordinary people can achieve. Thinking of this, Zhao Yun's eyes were filled with determination. If Youzhou could really achieve this level in the future, wouldn't the self who participated in it be able to stay in the annals of history? The last general must live up to his expectations. Zhao Yun shouted in a deep voice, his eyes full of admiration. After all, Lu Qing is his life's treasure, and he is just a novice boy who can control 30,000 troops. I'm afraid there isn't such a good lord in this world, right? In this way, the 30,000-strong army under Lu Qingque began a massive training camp, supported by Lu Qing's modern resources. They can be said to have meat every day, not only physically strong, but also mentally different from before. Lu Qing didn't quite understand the affairs of the army, and at this point, he focused on the people's livelihood. After all, Youzhou would be his own territory in the future. Inside the governor's office, officials sat below, all of whom were too grand to breathe. I thought it was just a mascot for the governor, but I didn't expect that he came with a 30,000-strong army. Therefore, these officials dare not be careless, and of course, the county governors from all over Youzhou did not come, obviously not taking Lu Qing, the guy who bought officials, seriously. However, Lu Qing doesn't care. After he recovers, they will know how to regret it. Report on the situation in Ji County and Guanyang County. Nowadays, what Lu Qing can control is Guanyang County, where the Youzhou government is located. Apart from that, the county guards in other places rely on the high sky and the emperor's distance, and have not even visited him as a shangguan. So Lu Qing wants to develop Guanyang County first, which can also be considered as building a foundation. Your Excellency, I would like to inform you. The governor of Guanyang County came from his background and began to explain the situation in Guanyang County. After listening, Lu Qing only had one idea. Poverty. There is nothing else left in Youzhou, only poverty. Because this is the border, the foreign tribes come every year to enjoy the autumn breeze. The people are not only suffering heavy casualties, but there are not many thousand taels left. In addition, because this is a peripheral area, the court rarely manages the affairs of Youzhou, leading to the abnormal arrogance of the local tyrants and the serious exploitation of the people. In summary, the situation in Youzhou is very bad. After thinking for a moment, Lu Qing finally came up with an idea. He needed various resources such as minerals and wood from the Three Kingdoms world, which could be sold at a high price in modern times. If we were to dig these things, it would require manual labor. After all, there were not many machines in ancient times, so Lu Qing had an idea of using work as a substitute for relief. That is to mobilize the people to mine and cut down trees for themselves, while my words are to distribute money and food to the people. 008, work as a substitute for relief, let Youzhou have abundant food and clothing. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 008 The governor's office has informed the people of all Youzhou that it is recruiting workers due to the need for mining, logging, and other activities. Working 4 hours a day earns 100 and includes 1 meal per day. Because the people don't recognize many characters, Lu Qing decided to write the announcement directly in vernacular, as long as the people can understand it. Oh my goodness, this can't be true, can it? 100, isn't it that you can earn 3,000 in just 1 month of work? My goodness, that's 3 taels of silver. You should know that nowadays, the annual income of the people is only 8 or 9,000, which is still a relatively stable situation in terms of work. And as long as you give Lu Qing 3 months to work, it can withstand the income of the previous year. Will the people not be tempted? However, due to the lack of trust in officials since ancient times, the people of Youzhou dare not take action. But at this moment, suddenly an official shouted. As long as someone is willing to come and work, they can receive 1 month's wages in advance after signing the contract. After the official finished speaking, he immediately had someone carry out boxes of silver coins. In the end, someone couldn't resist and tried, but he really received 3 taels of silver. At this moment, the people caused a complete sensation, and countless people rushed forward, fearing that they would lose their seats when it was too late. In fact, they don't have to worry, because not only mining, logging, etc., but also building city walls, repairing houses, etc., all require the use of migrant workers. Due to its origin from modern times, Lu Qing knows where there are mineral resources in Youzhou. Whether it's gold, iron, copper, and so on, everything is clear at a glance. Therefore, after the people arrived, Lu Qing directly announced the start of construction. In the number 1 iron mine of Guanyang County, Lu Er was working on his first day today. He thought it would be as tiring as doing corvée labor, and even easily beaten and scolded. But what he didn't expect was that the soldiers responsible for guarding around him were very kind, and even took the initiative to let them rest when they felt uncomfortable. This is simply unimaginable. When was it so easy to do things for the public? At noon, while everyone was busy working, suddenly a group of people pushed their cars over, and the fragrance of the food poured directly into everyone's noses. Dinner's over. Everyone, come and eat. A cook in a white apron shouted, "This is from the army." What? Eating. In ancient times, there was no habit of eating lunch, but Lu Qing is a modern person who has become accustomed to eating lunch, so his army has always had 3 meals. Seeing the workers' doubts, the cook explained. "Didn't you read the announcement from the governor? I'll pack a meal every day, come and eat it quickly. The governor once said, 'Man is iron, but iron is steel.' How can we work if we can't eat enough?" As the cook lifted the white cloth from the cart, the people around were stunned because there were buckets of food inside. A bucket of rice, a bucket of mutton stewed potatoes, a bucket of fried vegetables, a bucket of mapo tofu, and finally a bucket of laver egg soup. Even many ingredients are not available in this era, such as potatoes. In the future, Lu Qing will promote all of these things in Youzhou. After all, potatoes, sweet potatoes, and corn are crops that cannot be missed. Gollum. The sound of swallowing saliva on the scene echoed, and these seemingly delicious dishes were really something that commoners like them could eat. Looking at the hesitant people, the cook sighed helplessly, but his eyes were also filled with nostalgia. When they first followed the governor, didn't they also dare not believe it? Don't worry, everyone. This is all true. Our governor has a rule that anyone who falls into his chamber has 3 meals a day. You guys are pretty good, like in the military, when 3 meals a day are of this standard, 3 dishes and 1 soup must have 1 meat. When this statement came out, the whole scene was in an uproar, and even many young men burst into green light, wanting to join the army. They want to die for the governor. If I could join the army of the governor, wouldn't such delicious cuisine be available every day? With the military soldiers leading the way, the migrant workers also began to cook. The chefs trained by Lu Qing not only taught a lot of modern cuisine, but also had no hand tremors. Therefore, each person received a large plate, which could definitely make them eat to their fullest. But at this moment, the cook noticed that some people were actually not eating and wanted to take them home. "Are you here?" the cook asked curiously. Luoyang scratched his head and said, "I want to take it back to my mother to eat. My family hasn't eaten meat for years." Listening to Luoyang's words, the cook let out a sigh. He knew it was impossible to persuade him, so he could only pat Luoyang's shoulder and say, "Believe me, it won't be long before the governor allows the entire people of Youzhou to eat these things." Listening to the chef's words, a glimmer of hope shone in the eyes of Luoyang and others. Will there really be such a day? 009, absolutely elite, send troops out of Jixian to suppress bandits. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 009. As the farmers who went to work on the first day returned home, the excellent treatment of the mining and logging fields instantly spread throughout Guanyang County. The next day, more and more people came to sign up. The ancients were very hard-working, especially in this era. As long as someone could make them eat enough, their enthusiasm for work would be extremely terrifying. Therefore, in just a few days, the warehouse of the governor's office had already been filled, and Lu Qing's face was full of smiles. If all these woods and minerals were obtained in modern times, they would easily be worth billions of dollars. Just so many minerals, if not prepared in modern times, cannot be easily extracted. However, Lu Qing was clearly prepared for it long ago. He had acquired several mineral resources in modern times, and as long as he publicly announced, he would discover new mineral resources in the lower layers. In the short term, it should be possible to explain the source of these minerals. Subsequently, Lu Qing's days turned into 3 points in one line, constantly shuttling back and forth between modern times and the end of the Eastern Han Dynasty. Every time I go, I take away a large amount of minerals and wood, as well as medicinal herbs purchased from farmers. Get into the modern world, convert it into money through your own trading company, and then purchase various things needed during the Three Kingdoms period. For example, the boiler used for steelmaking belongs to the category of obsolete products, which are driven by diesel generators. Although it has long been obsolete in modern times, it undoubtedly existed like a divine artifact during the Three Kingdoms period. There are also fertilizers, grain seeds, and so on, basically anything that can be used. Lu Qing has not let go. Although it may not be time to take it out yet, preparing in advance is not a big mistake. Time slowly passes by, and in the blink of an eye, a month has passed. The originally agreed time with Zhao Yun was 1 month, but now it's time to inspect the troops. Lu Qing served as the commander of the light staff for over a month, and it is time to bring the entire Youzhou under his control. The figure of Lu Qing appeared here in the schoolyard outside Jixian city. See Lord. When he saw Lu Qing, Zhao Yun immediately dismounted and then knelt on one knee with respect in his eyes. Over the past month, the changes in Guanyan County have been visible to the naked eye, with dilapidated houses being demolished and rebuilt. These are the new houses built by Lu Qing for the people. At the same time, Lu Qing also provided a lot of food to help the people, and the implementation of work as a substitute for relief made the people much more prosperous. Although it was only a short month, Zhao Yun seemed to see the flourishing era rising slowly. Zilong, I have never been to a military camp in the past month. I hope you don't disappoint me. Lu Qing smiled and said that with the military training methods he brought from modern times and Zhao Yun's experience, his army is bound to be strong. Lord, please enter and observe. Zhao Yun smiled slightly, his eyes filled with pride and pride. He had unparalleled food treatment and powerful weapons. If he couldn't train a strong army, then Zhao Yun might as well commit suicide. The two arrived at the campus under the escort of their personal guards. At this moment, on the military campus, a total of 30,000 soldiers were on standby. The black armor emitted a dazzling light in the sunlight. Although they all wore ghost faces, their exposed eyes were filled with fervent admiration as they looked at Lu Qing. Because Lu Qing is a modern person's mindset, he thinks it's normal, but in the eyes of soldiers in this era, it's simply unbelievable. Therefore, gradually in the hearts of the soldiers, they have begun to mythologize Lu Qing. Of course, Lu Qing actually used some small means, such as promoting slogans. Not bad, not bad. Lu Qing stood on the commanding platform, looking at the imposing 30,000 soldiers in front of him, feeling very satisfied. All soldiers. Lu Qing shouted loudly, secretly thinking to herself that next time she brought a loudspeaker, otherwise it would be very tiring. See Lord. In an instant, 30,000 soldiers all knelt down on one knee, and the sound of the collision of weapons and armor was deafening. If there were enemies at this moment, just this kind of noise would probably deter many people. Lu Qing was also greatly shocked. Is this his own army? Lu Qing's boundless passion will be his capital for dominating the world. After reviewing the army, Lu Qing issued an order to Zhao Yun to launch a crackdown on bandits targeting the entire Youzhou region. Lord, what if we go to other counties and cities without their convenience? Zhao Yun asked so. Lu Qing's eyes flickered with a cold light and he said in a deep voice. Then fight. It's time for them to know who the master of Youzhou is. Listening to Lu Qing's words, Zhao Yun also smiled, and finally it was this day. The next morning, Lu Qing's Youzhou soldiers began to move. This is not a small amount. Leave 10,000 to guard Ji County and directly send 20,000 troops to suppress bandits. In remote and impoverished areas like Youzhou, 20,000 can be considered a large-scale military mobilization. In Liaodong County, Gongsun Zan sat high at the head of the military camp, looking at the intelligence in his hand with a worried expression. Our governor has been holding back for over a month, but ultimately we will take action. 010, sweeping the bandits and officials in Youzhou within a month. You are listening at novelfull.audio. 010, Lord, what should we do then? Yan Gang asked so. He was the first fierce general under Gongsun, commanding White Horse Kong. Now that Zhao Yun has been beheaded by Lu Qing, the two major generals under Gongsun's command are Yan Gang and Tianyu. Let it go, if he needs a way out, he can just step aside. After all, the governor is suppressing bandits, and I, Gongsun, wouldn't have done anything harmful to one side. Gongsun said that suppressing bandits is a good thing. As long as Lu Qing is truly suppressing bandits, he will definitely not stop him. Listening to Gongsun's words, the generals in the camp nodded, which was also the reason why they were willing to follow Gongsun. Qinggang Mountain is the largest gathering place for bandits in Guanyang County, and it is said that there are tens of thousands of bandits on this mountain. In the past, the imperial court had sent troops to besiege and suppress, but the results were not satisfactory. General, the road on the mountain is relatively rugged and cannot be fought with cavalry. The scout said so. Zhao Yun nodded, although he could not fight with cavalry, as a fully armed elite, even without war horses, it would still be a strong army in the world. Therefore, Zhao Yun ordered a portion of people to be left to guard supplies, horses, and so on, while the remaining people walked forward. With Zhao Yun's order, the vast army ran towards the mountain with neat and uniform steps. Bang! 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 The sound of footsteps, like a drumbeat, echoed straight through the entire Qinggang Mountain. At this moment, not only the bandits on the mountain are paying attention, but also the scouts from various forces in Qingzhou. After seeing this neat military appearance, these scouts were all deeply shocked. Quickly send the message back. When the scouts were shocked, Zhao Yun and others finally ran into the bandits. Kill me. These bandits have no rules and regulations, they are directly attacking the army with a fierce force. But this time they are no longer facing useless officers and soldiers, but the Youzhou army trained by Lu Qing. Form a formation. Zhao Yun let out a loud shout, and for a moment, the Youzhou army formed a third and third camps. As soon as the collision occurred, the situation turned upside down, and in front of the Youzhou army, these bandits had no resistance at all. It is said that there are tens of thousands of bandits, but apart from the elderly, weak, women, and children, there are actually thousands of people. Therefore, in less than an hour, the battle was declared over, and in front of the Youzhou army, these bandits were like local chickens, tiles, and dogs. Within the military camp of Liaodong County. An hour. Gongsun couldn't believe it, he knew about the bandits in Qinggang Mountain and even fought against them. Although they are local chickens, tiles, and dogs, even their own white horses dare not take risks when they are unable to mobilize cavalry on the mountain. As a result, Lu Qing's army was able to annihilate it in just 1 hour. This powerful combat effectiveness truly shook Gongsun. What Gongsun and others didn't know was that this was just the beginning. Subsequently, almost every day, good news came from the Youzhou army. Sweep Guanyang County in 7 days, Liaoxi County in 10 days, and Right Beiping County in 15 days. In just 1 month, all the bandits in Youzhou were swept away, and the entire Youzhou was instantly silent. Even the Han Dynasty knew about the massive anti-bandit campaign in Youzhou. I have seen powerful ones, but I have never seen such outrageous ones. Even bandits, a battle that shatters at the slightest touch is too fake, right? Actually, this is quite normal. What good weapons and equipment can bandits have? They couldn't even break through the armor of the Youzhou army. Because the military in Youzhou is made of modern lightweight metal, which directly covers the entire body, the number of deaths in the battle for a month has not even exceeded 100. After a month of bloody battles, almost every soldier has seen blood, and from now on they can fully claim to be truly elite. At the same time, due to the strong military performance of the Youzhou army, it directly deterred the powerful forces throughout the entire Youzhou region. The county governors led by Gongsun Zan all came to Ji County to report their work, which means that from this moment on, they began to truly recognize Lu Qing as the governor. In the Jixian governor's office, Lu Qing first met these lords of Youzhou. Most of them don't know each other, but the ones they are familiar with are Gong Suanzan, Gong Sunyue, and others. The Gongsun family is one of the largest tycoons in Youzhou, and now it has emerged as a dragon among the people of Gongsun, which can be said to be at its peak. The appearance of Lu Qing only made the Gongsun family very uncomfortable, because the position of the governor was originally in the Gongsun family's possession. But now everything is gone. Lu Qing's displayed strength is too strong, and they dare not seek the position of the governor. Just hope that this governor does not kill him completely. See you, sir. When Lu Qing walked out, many officials in Youzhou bowed to him, even Gongsun Zan did so. Because after a month of fighting against bandits, he has been subdued by Lu Qing. With such a strong army in Youzhou, when foreign tribes invade, they can definitely protect the people of Youzhou, so Gongsun Zan is happy. At this moment, Lu Qing noticed a person with a special appearance sitting behind Gong Suanzan. Is it Liu Bei? Seeing that iconic ear, Lu Qing had a guess in his heart, and at the same time, he suddenly remembered that there were two fierce people in this Youzhou that he couldn't miss. Zhang Fei and Guan Yu, these two people should have not yet sworn with Liu Bei. If they can gain their loyalty, it will be of great help to their future development.